President Trump's envoy, Steve Witkoff, met with Russian President Vladimir Putin in Moscow Thursday. On social media Friday morning, Trump wrote, "We had very good and productive discussions with President Vladimir Putin of Russia yesterday, and there is a very good chance that this horrible, bloody war can finally come to an end." The White House says the meeting in Moscow shows progress is being made toward a ceasefire.
He is putting pressure on President Putin and the Russians to do the right thing. Yesterday was a productive day for the United States of America and for the world in terms of peace. We have never been this close to peace.
Trump is calling for Putin to accept the ceasefire and to hold off on further attacks on Ukraine troops in the Kursk region. On Friday, Putin said Russia will guarantee the safety of Ukrainian troops in Kursk if they surrender. Before the meeting with Witkoff, Putin laid out conditions he says Russia requires for a ceasefire, including limits on Ukraine's ability to mobilize troops and import weapons during the ceasefire period. So while Putin did not accept the deal proposed by the U.S. and Ukraine in its current form, the Kremlin sounds somewhat upbeat about the possibility of a ceasefire.
There are certainly some grounds for cautious optimism. You heard a very important statement by President Putin yesterday. Answering a question from journalists, he said that he supports President Trump's position on the settlement, but voiced some questions that need to be answered together. Therefore, yes, indeed, a lot still needs to be done, but the president has shown solidarity with President Trump's position.
President Putin and President Trump are expected to talk soon. The international community is responding. China says it supports a, quote, fair, lasting, and binding peace agreement through dialogue and negotiation that is acceptable to all parties involved. The G7 foreign ministers, while meeting in Canada, released a joint statement welcoming the U.S.-Ukraine ceasefire proposal and calling for Russia to agree to a ceasefire or risk further sanctions. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio at that G7 meeting in Canada said that the U.S. expects both Russia and Ukraine to make concessions as the negotiations proceed. Jim Spellman, CGTN, Washington.